Hey guys, this week we're going to be talking about all kinds of odd stuff. We're going to be talking about wildlife. We're going to talk about the flood insurances, building, all the crazy stuff that's going on right now. We're having water rate increases. Obviously, you know about assessments. DeSantis has a new plan to get rid of our property taxes, or at least try to diminish them in the meantime. And we've got some large businesses that are moving around the area, possibly to an advantage, possibly not. And some other things you need to know if you are entering the home buying stages of your life. Anyway, we're going to start this off with something strange because there's some good, bad, and strange things going on. And the strange one is the wildlife. It is doing things that we haven't seen. Now, you've heard about gators showing up randomly places. Yeah, well, now they're ringing ring doorbells. We've got families of bears that are coming up to your front door. Um, Black snakes, love them. Black racers, I hate snakes, but I like this one because it kills the poisonous snakes. So some of these animals have a good effect on our life, just like these little burrowing owls. Absolutely adorable. The little ones are out now, so it's fun to see them. And even the coyotes, the baby coyotes, cute, but obviously we know they grow into full out coyotes that probably aren't going to be good for us. Anyway, one other strange thing that I got to share with you is there's actually 8 meats of different animals that you cannot eat in Florida. It's illegal. Things like horses, cats, dogs, sea turtles, loons. Yes, these are the things on the list. I'm not kidding. But I don't think any of us were eating that anyway, outside of maybe a random Chinese restaurant joke. Those animals aren't even on the list for most people. All right, so now that we're past all of that stuff, all the silly stuff, let's get to something really serious. Flood insurance policies. I know that everybody is concerned about it because it's one of your expenses, and especially when you come to an area like Cape Coral, Punta Gorda, Fort Myers, even down into Naples and Bonita Springs, and keep going north towards Port Charlotte, Northport, Sarasota. Water. Anything near the water, the flooding is a concern, right? So what we've started doing here locally is transferring flood policies. And that's great if you can get an owner to agree to it. And what happens with this? You're basically taking over their policy at whatever rate they have, and then you're going to have to renew when that policy expires. Nice thing is, if you take over somebody's policy and it's your primary home, this can't be second home, this can't be vacation home, but if it's your primary home, it's going to have a rate cap on increases of 18% when it renews. Example, you get somebody's insurance for $1,100, you carry that out to say November, needs to be renewed. They will put no more than an 18% increase on that $1,100. And that's where you stay. Now, the following year, this is renewed every year. The following year, it could be another 18, and again, another 18. This all depends on what the flood policies and mapping, how it all works out over the years. But it is an affordable way to do it. Sometimes you can even start a new policy right from this get-go. You take the existing policy that's on the home, take it to whatever carrier you're going to go to, have them run the numbers against it. You might find a new policy for very low numbers too. You might be able to lock in and keep as well. So check your options. We have plenty of insurance agents that can help you with this process. We're going through a couple of those things right now. And Ted and Lisa, I know that you've been through this, man, over and over and over. And we're helping them through the flood situation there too. And they're one of the people that are able to get a transfer. So congratulations on that. And we're going to keep pushing you forward to get you to your successful closing. Yes, guys, remember, I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. So if you have any questions, need any information you can't seem to find anywhere else, I try to provide the most off the wall kind of information that I can find. Sometimes it's new news to you, sometimes it's repeat. But to me, it's a way to just continue sharing my knowledge of the area so that when you're ready to buy a home, you're going to come looking for me. At least I hope so. Anyway, let's keep moving on. All right, so part of the animals doing all this crazy stuff is because we have a ton of building going on. That means a lot of trees are being ripped down. Well, now we also have droughts, wildfires, and you have to think about this. The more area that is cleared for these construction projects, the more animals get displaced. That means more competition in these smaller areas. It's forcing the animals into our neighborhoods. So this isn't something that's going to be the norm, but it's something we're going to have to adjust to until we find a solution of where to move these animals so they're not just wandering into neighborhoods. But that whole point came up because of droughts. Yes, everything is super dry right now, super brown. We've got wildfires. Yesterday, we had wildfires all over the state. I think it was reported 89 of them, down to 18 today. Yes, there's an active wildfire map that we have, and it lets us kind of track this stuff. But that is one of the big concerns right now because if you've also heard, this drought is making the wells dry up in Cape Coral. It's not just Cape Coral, though. It's going to be places like Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, anywhere that's still on well and septic, Lehigh Acres, North Fort Myers. So they're all on an aquifer. And if your well is not dug deep enough, then you're going to end up having this problem. So, a couple things we're trying to do is manage the water usage a little more. Well, problem is, not everybody listens. That's why you're going to see some really, really green lawns out there, and you're going to see some really, really brown lawns. You'll be able to tell who's following the rules based upon that. And there's two solutions that I think could be helpful. Number one would obviously be digging the wells deeper, but there's a cost associated with that. We're talking thousands of dollars to dig deeper. It would give you your water back, but at a cost. The other one that was suggested is rainwater harvesting. And if you don't know what this is, they do this. I think the last time I saw this was over in Italy, and they take the runoff from the roof and it goes into barrels. And from these barrels, it's then transferred into filtration systems, and then the water just comes into the home. So there's ways to be able to collect water and be able to use it around your home that might not even involve drinking. You might just use it to water the lawn, water the plants. You could, heck, you could even put it in toilets to flush them. So there's ways to use this water, but we have to find a way to make this happen because the water sewer conversion is not only going to be expensive and get more expensive, but it takes a lot of time and it's very difficult to do large areas in the short amount of time that we need them. And we have big projects coming that are making these things happen even faster. So, in the interim, if you got the money, dig your well deeper. You'll be ahead of the majority of the people out there. If you don't, you might start looking for, stock up on some on bottled water and stuff. So if your well does run dry, maybe have some gallon bottles as well. Try to collect some water whenever the rain starts, but we're not expecting rain here. We might get it in the next week, 30% chance. But as you know, our rainy season doesn't start this early, so we have to get through this dry season and push through to the downpours. Now, on top of this, they're also talking about a water rate increase. Yes, I don't know how big the increase is going to be because they're going to have a meeting to discuss it. If it does take over and we have an increase, it'll happen in October. So this means a higher expense for everyone. This is where I think one of the reasons why this may be happening too is it makes you really think about your water usage. Are you somebody that takes hour-long showers? Are you somebody that just, sits out washing your car for 2 hours and basically letting the water run? There's all kinds of reasons for this waste. So if you can just kind of dial that in a little bit and not use it so much, it's going to keep your rates down, your costs down, but it's going to make it so that there's more water to go around to more people. One of the other things that's happening because of this market and what it's been doing for us, you've heard we have increased inventory levels, and we're going to go over that in just a minute. But one of the big side effects of this is the builders. Some of these builders are having to pull back on how many homes they're building and offer more incentives. This is a great time for buyers. And I know you're probably sitting there saying, Craig, you crazy? The prices are higher than ever. Actually, they keep going down. In fact, year over year, from last year to this year, 7.5% drop for Cape Coral. So I don't like hearing that because I own a home here and I've had it for a number of years, but this market needs it. It needs these adjustments. It needs people to be more realistic in their expectations. And we need to be more precise and more accurate when we're delivering information to clients. I literally had a listing appointment that I had to push off doing the listing. We're giving options. Maybe we can find rental programs that'll help them get through, but there's not enough equity in the home. If there's no equity, I'm not putting the home on the market. It's not going to help anybody because the number that seller needs to get, it can't be. It just won't happen. The numbers don't make sense. There's so much competition out there right now. Unless you have a product that is over the top, one of a kind, and somebody's going to fall all over, then you may want to consider either being really, really reasonable, follow the guidance of the professional that you're hiring, and make sure that you price it right at the get-go so that it's gone. Remember, I mentioned Ted and Lisa? Well, they sold their home in one day. Now, they're in a different market than here, but they also took the advice of the real estate agent they were working with, and it sold quickly. Now they're able to move on to their plans to move down here into the Cape Coral area. And that was all a result of proper pricing and hitting the market with your best foot forward. Now, what's happening also with some of the changes with our weather patterns and some of the things that are happening here is people are moving inland. We're seeing more and more people that are pressing into other areas, out towards Alva, maybe just East Fort Myers, just further away from the coast because they want to get away from the flooding. That's one of the big concerns for people. So if you're somebody that's that afraid of living close to the water, then move inland. Now, prices are not going to get any better inland. I was shocked when I started looking at this, but median and average prices, Cape Coral and Fort Myers are near the bottom. Obviously, we have places like Miramar Lakes. That is the most expensive property that I'm finding in this particular search, at almost $2 million for an average sale. But then you've got places like Marco Island, Naples, Captiva, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel. These all come ahead of time. And we'd expect it to be ahead, right? Same thing with Bonita, Estero. All of these come before Fort Myers and Cape Coral. Now, if you want to go less expensive, you can go to Lehigh Acres, North Fort Myers. I can't even say Punta Gorda. They're more expensive than we are right now. Kind of crazy, right? They have the most inventory too at 89% change since 2019 to 2025. Now, Cape Coral Fort Myers, we're at 35.5% of an increase in inventory in that time. So you can see we're not even close to the worst market. If you see a lot of bad press about it, talk to somebody that actually knows what they're talking about and has the numbers, has the details to back it up, because then you're going to get more accurate information and make better decisions. So one of the things that we see in a market like this is we see price drops on a daily basis, people trying to catch up to the market. This is one of the biggest problems. Don't price your home so that you can chase it downhill. Jump in front of it, get ahead of it, price it where you don't necessarily want to go, but you know it gives you the best chance to sell the home. You have to do that from the get-go. If you don't, you're going to be chasing that ball rolling down the hill every day, every week, every month. It's hard to catch up to. And in this market, 90 days on the market used to be kind of normal. Now it's more like 6 months. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you have an outstanding property, like I said before, and it just has features or location that's just top notch, you're probably going to do a lot quicker than that. However, if you don't price it properly and you aren't in a position where you have a bunch of great things going for it, it can take you some time to sell. So, unless your plans have flexibility to allow for a different plan, then you may want to consider being super aggressive out the gate so that you can get your plans accomplished and move on to your next life. One of the things about moving to an area, and this also comes into this inventory thing, we mostly see people that are relocating for a certain thing, whether it's work, whether it's a lifestyle change, maybe they're remote workers and just want to live in this wonderful climate. I mean, this is a fantastic neighborhood. This is in the Southwest Cape, absolutely amazing neighborhood, Royal Palms lining the streets, as you can see. But those things are what they're coming for. And to get that lifestyle change, you have to move from where you are. And in doing so, you're willing to kind of trade things off. Maybe you sold your home up north for a little bit more because the inventory was lower. And down here, you can negotiate a lower price because we got a ton of inventory. Great trade-off. I know you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but Craig, what about the interest rates? Well, that's another thing. We talked about builders and giving incentives. If you go new construction, you may get a super fantastic rate after they buy it down, plus any other incentives like paying closing costs. So tons of ways to still take advantage of this market. If you're a buyer that's moving here and needs to make the best decision financially, these are some of the things you want to be thinking about, or at least get somebody that can help you think about these as you're moving through the process. Another thing affecting this inventory situation is have we talked about the number of apartment buildings that are here? Absolutely incredible. They seem to be popping up constantly, and I get more and more reports of another affordable living situation that has 300 units are going to be rented, or another luxury apartment complex that's going to be put down in, the Southeast Cape. There's two of them going in down there. But we literally have about a dozen new buildings that have hundreds of units in it, and they all came in the last year, maybe two, and they're not stopping. So that puts a big dent in who's going to live in these houses that are being built as single families in these residential neighborhoods. If people are going to rent instead, that leaves these homes vacant. and they're going to stay that way. Now, we do have a lot of these homes that are on rental programs, both short term and long term. So it's more of a competition thing, but it kind of explains why homes aren't moving as fast. And the other part that makes that happen is that people like myself with really low interest rates aren't ready to give those up to get the higher rates. So as we see the market change and the financial parts of our government and country stabilizing, and those rates start to drop a little bit, I think we're going to see a lot more people coming back to the realization that, hey, it is still affordable to live in Florida and I can still have that lifestyle. So let's go. And I briefly touched at the beginning, DeSantis is trying to eliminate property taxes. Now, is it going to happen? I said the same thing when I first heard about this. Well, how are we paying for all the services? One of the things that he is suggesting is that many of the local governments really look at their budgets and their spending. I don't know if you knew this, but at one point, DeSantis had raised, I think it was something like 22 it was either 22 million or 22 billion. I'll have to look that up. But it's somewhere in that 22 range, million or billion, that he has on reserve for the state. And it's because he is financially responsible, fiscally smart, and making things happen. Now, I'm not going to sit here on a podium and talk politics. That's not what I do. You know that. I'm just saying he's the gentleman that has previously shown a way that he knows to raise money or build money up. And if he's suggesting looking at our budgets and seeing what we can do with it, then we may want to do that. But that's one way. Another way is to pass it on to the visitors. Yes, that's basically what he said. Right now, in this past year, St. Pete, Clearwater area, they collect about $150 million over the course of a year in hotel fees. So he's suggesting raising fees in places like that. And there's a lot of other places that that same thing can be done. Now, is that going to keep people from coming here? I think it may. They might decide, well, let's just go somewhere out of the country. It's probably cheaper. I don't know a lot of other states are going to give the same kind of ambiances here. I know a lot of people like California, but everybody knows California is pretty dang expensive. Hawaii is going to be very expensive. Tell me another place that's tropical like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is that we need the tourists to come, and if we make it too expensive for them to be here, they're not going to keep coming. Now, new Costco is being possibly put in Fort Myers. So what they're going to do is move the old one that's down on Cypress Lake and 41. Super busy intersection, hard to get in and out of this place. The gas pumps are all jammed in, people crisscrossing, cars. It's just a mess. But every Costco here seems to be a mess. The one down at Gulf Coast Town Center is the same way. They're going to add, I think, 10 new pumps down there just to handle the load. But this Costco, the one that's down on 41 and Cypress Lake, it's potentially going to move up to right next to Plantation Road. I think they said the west side of Plantation, the east side of Metro, and just an intersection or two down from the worst intersection in Fort Myers, which is 6 Mile Cypress and Colonial Boulevard, is the busiest intersection in the entire city. And they've been mapping traffic here. That's why they started doing this crisscross kind of a pattern that they have up in Sarasota off of University. It has the same design. And it's because there's so much traffic up there. And please don't get me started on driving to Sarasota because 75 and Sarasota, they don't like each other. It's horrible. But just word of caution if you're ever driving up through there, it's always busy. But anyway, that intersection is very, very busy already. And adding something like a Costco, I'm sure you've been to it once, twice, maybe every week, but it is so busy. And you put that in the middle of a busier area, it could just be a complete mess. We'll wait to see if it's even improved before we worry about what's going to happen. Something I found the other day, I had to go across into Fort Myers to go to a doctor's appointment, had a little something done here. I had the skin stuff with the sun and all that. Well, yeah, doctor got me again. Anyway, I'm on my way over and it is before 7 a.m. And I paid close attention to the time because everybody talks about how bad the traffic is in the mornings crossing the bridges. Well, it was probably about 6:55. So I was getting close. And I'm like, where is all the traffic? Where is everybody? I mean, everybody talks about how busy it is. I don't really see it. I mean, there's certain sections as you got on the bridge and we're going over to where the lights were on the other side, it did get a little busier. But the reason I'm telling you this is if you are going to be in the area and commute from Cape Coral to Fort Myers in the morning and reverse that coming back in the evening, pick your times wisely. If you go a little bit earlier in both directions, you can usually avoid all the traffic or go later. But that sweet spot, like between 7:30 and 9, forget about it. And same thing on the return trip. 3:30, 4 o'clock is where that one starts, and it might finish around 5:36. So I would just recommend pick your times wisely if you can. Otherwise, you might be stuck in some of that crazy traffic that you hear about. And one of the things we found out on an inspection the other day is that insurance companies will definitely ask you to replace your water heater if it's over 10 years old. They don't want the thing to rupture and then be a mess and flood your house. They do put a strict guideline on that, as you've heard before, roofs. Roofs are very volatile. An inspector can give it a certain amount of life on the 4-point inspection and say, hey, you got 5 years or more left on it. Insurance companies might let it pass. Some insurance companies are say, I'm sorry, it's over 10 years old, replace it. So that's where it gets a little more difficult because each insurance company kind of has their own rules about what homes are going to cover and which ones are not with these different parameters of the home. So once again, pick wisely, get professional help to help you through that, and it should be good in the end. Anyway, that is literally about the good, bad, and strange things going on here in Florida. And if you want any more information, check out one of these other videos. And if that isn't good enough for you, you got to do what everyone else is doing. Call, text, email, jump on a Zoom call, use the app, whatever it is, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.